then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Well, they say it's tough at the top, Dan, it's tough at the bottom. Think of Huddersfield. 11 games into their Premier League season, they're 1-0 up against Fulham, 48 minutes on the clock. You would think it's the Premier League, there's going to be lots of good times. Huddersfield, Dan, have only been leading in a game, having that sense of being in a good place in a game for 33 minutes and counting across this entire Premier League season. A measly 33 minutes where they haven't been grinding it out to hang on or been trailing.
Constant state of crisis.
Constant state of anxiety and crisis, yes. So they've had 33 measly minutes where things have been going well.
Yeah, that sort of wears you down after a while, I'd imagine. It's like a constant feeling of like being in some kind of overdraft or something. You know?
Something that we're not in a good place. Bohemian Football Club acted in good faith, they say today, and followed the correct process when purchasing the licensing agreement for this image via a world-leading third-party photo licensing company. However, the Bob Marley Representative Agency has informed us that this company did not have the right to grant any such license for this image. We are dealing with this separately. Subsequently, following direct correspondence with the Bob Marley Representative Agency, they cannot license the image to the Bohemian Football Club due to their own contractual and other obligations. Consequently, we can no longer supply the jersey with the image of Bob Marley as advertised, and thus ends one of the great periods in Irish football.
Yes, it was one of the great stories. Yeah, the Bob Marley shirt, sort of orders in from all around the world, discussions, leading debates. Even Bob Marley's son liked it, described it as the dopest thing he'd seen. Yeah, so but clearly it didn't give him he obviously doesn't have the power to make these decisions.
That's a pity.
So yeah, the jersey is no more. I think people are getting a full refund, or they have the opportunity to take the new away jersey, which has actually there is a good cause behind it. That 10% of the funds from the shirt is going to go to help out, sort of an initiative to help out people living in direct provision to come to games at Dalymount Park. So both still have a sort of a heavy sort of social justice slant to a lot of what they're doing, and there's sort of a clenched fist salute, a symbol of solidarity and support to replace where the Bob Marley, or I can't believe it's not Bob Marley image that was there. So I don't know, was it PR genius? Is this a PR gaffe? I mean, I don't know. There was people around the time who did call this, you know, they predicted this might be an issue. But I don't know. I can't get too het up over the whole thing. I don't think it's either a great thing or like an embarrassing thing. It's just they gave it a bash.
The great question now is who will be on the away jersey to replace the Bob Marley jersey, because you can't just go back now to.
Oh no, they have I told you they have a clenched fist, which is sort of to describe the actual quote from the press release. The clenched raised fist is a symbol of solidarity and support used to express unity, strength, and resistance.
Okay.
So it's actually a pretty nice jersey. Actually,
I was floating the possibility of Phil Lynott outside, although one of the lads in the office said, "Well, Lynott was a big Man United fan, so
yeah,
can't have that in a Bows jersey."
No. Well, I mean, Bob Marley wasn't a big Bows fan though either, to be clear.
There wasn't an
links
iconic were tenuous to begin with.
There was a Thin Lizzy gig at Dalymount, which was iconic, so that's the before our time. But that's the end of their journey.
Good.
Yeah.
A few bits to talk about here. So Stephen Kenny, Gary Breen on earlier saying he doesn't think there would be any issue whatsoever, any snobbery with Stephen Kenny taking the appointment. I fully expected him to say that, to be honest. His ultimate point was, well, you know, big reputation can be dismantled in the space of 2 or 3 training sessions, and equally somebody can come in and be super hot very early on with no reputation and the players are all on board. So
you don't have Neymar in the dressing room.
Yeah, exactly. All those points were made, and as you said earlier on, European success would transform everything.
Yeah, it would. This is becoming a real thing now. You know, like over the past week we've had.
I think after tonight we're not going to keep bringing it up. It's
but I mean,
on the eve of him winning his second double in 5 years.
But some of the people, in sort of our paper today, it was on the front and back almost. Eamon Sweeney speaking about his view. Yeah. But even over the past week, Richard Dunn coming out to speak in favour of it, and a few other people have alluded to it who wouldn't be. I guess if it was even an ex-League of Ireland player in England or whoever even retired saying it would be, well, yeah, of course you would say that. But I mean, someone like Richard Dunn, who, he does have links to the league through family and so on and friends, but still, he's not someone who would be in that sort of a category, you know, as being sort of this massive League of Ireland advocate in some way. So it's becoming a real discussion now. You know, and there is an element of it which is born from Ireland's position at the moment. There is an element of why not? You know, why don't we try this now? And I that's well intentioned, but I don't know, would Stephen Kenny find that sort of offensive? You know, sort of in some way that people are saying, well, I mean, how low can we go? Let's just try something different. Whereas actually a CV is more serious than that. But I think timing is everything with this, that the concept of Stephen Kenny becoming Ireland manager shouldn't be alien to people, but it's when you would like that to happen, because it would be such a different appointment to what's there now and to what's gone before to some degree, that it would need a bit of time, and it would need a bit of understanding that this is a different approach and a different way of doing things. And if Stephen, like, if for this hypothetical scenario where we're talking about like tomorrow or next week, which isn't actually a scenario we're dealing with, you know, he would be coming straight into a campaign starting in March where there's like 10 qualifiers or 12 qualifiers in a sprint to get to the next tournament that the FAI have to get into. That is not conducive to this more project type appointment, that you need to give it a bit of time to blend in. So maybe the best solution would be the campaign after this one. And if Stephen Kenny has a good European campaign with Dundalk next year, which I think he believes there's a chance they will do that because they're going to be seeded at the outset.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I think one more European run of substance, I've mentioned this earlier, one more European run of real substance, I think that would really put him to the top of the list. I think if there was a change tomorrow, like, there would be that Mick McCarthy quick fix solution. But going forward longer term,
because I'm projecting here from afar, I think he also senses it's quite a delicate stage at the moment, and it's possible. And maybe it was one of the reasons he was emotional at full time. Look, I'm sure winning a double is a big enough
I think
reason,
the full time was the fact they'd lost the previous two finals at the Aviva, and that was
But I'm throwing it in there that I do think he is aware of the chatter. I do think when he is writing in his programme notes about self-defeatist attitudes in Irish football, he's a smart enough man to know that he's in the conversation, he's picking up on media. Look, 99% if you want, I'll go that far with you. 99% emotion, but I think a sense that this is not impossible now, and it's very delicate, and I do feel he does need to go well in Europe. Like,
100%.
If things don't go well in Europe and he just keeps winning the next 4 leagues with Dundalk, I don't think he'll get the job. But if a good run in Europe happens and passing football that we saw a couple of years ago happens, then he really will force himself into the conversation in a massive way.
100%. I mean, that is the thing. I mean, when you think about it, that when Dundalk had their brilliant run in 2016 and they were going toe-to-toe with top teams, actually things were going okay with the international team at that stage. We'd been to Euro 2016 and things had gone okay. I mean, mixed views. And we finished that campaign, that calendar year, by winning in Austria to be top of the group with 10 from 12.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a debate about the manager's future at that point at all. But at that very time, Stephen Kenny's Dundalk team were doing things that people are bemoaning that Irish international senior teams aren't doing at the moment.
I remember in kind of a sit-around chat Keane was doing with some of the journalists over in France at the time. The lack of possession was being talked about, and Keane was sort of saying, well, look, I've been here for 20, 30 years. We've never passed the ball. It's just the way we are. And someone did actually say, what about Stephen Kenny and Dundalk in Europe? And Keane was pretty much forced to say, yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's unusual. That is unusual. That I just think that, if we remain in this situation where we are with the senior team at the moment, which does appear to be a slightly negative one, you know, and maybe that can change with some good results. But next July, August, if Dundalk are playing European games, and again with inferior resources and maybe lacking the players, although they've got a fair bit of resources compared to every other League of Ireland club now, but compared to maybe the Champions League superpowers with like 25 million budgets, if an Irish team is playing, composed of Irish players, is going out there doing things again that's entertaining to watch but also competing, he's well positioned, but I think it's in some ways it would be after this 2020 cycle that would be perfect, you know, that would be a smoother transition, whereas now I think it will be more complicated if things happen quicker.
I think one of the most impossible to plan segues of all time, we have Bob Marley and Stephen Kenny, and now, Dan, we have Gary Rogers, Dundalk goalkeeper, singing at the homecoming, having a great time. Have a look at this.
3 years,
Stephen Kenny standing nearby, listening, going, "It's not bad."
Yeah, I actually watched a bit of the homecoming thing earlier on, and it was a bit like an audience with Stephen Kenny, where he was just he was the master of ceremonies and just randomly getting players to come up and sing a song or chat or whatever. So maybe Stephen Kenny, his arc could be Ireland manager and then eventually the Late Late Show. He's slowly but surely moving his way up there.
They're all in their suits, by the way, 3-piece suits. They're all in their 3-piece suits up on stage. This is a very dignified affair.
Well, it's their official cup final suits, Joe.
Of course.
Do you not think these League of Ireland clubs can be able to afford to dress in such a way?
That's unfair.
There's a few crude off-air comments about floodlight failures and stuff like that. You can't be winding me off air. It's still fresh in my mind when I'm sitting in here. They do have suits in the League of Ireland, Joe. There you go. They've got clothes, they've got shoes, they've got all sorts of stuff.
My point was, when you see the GAA homecomings, there's certainly no suits involved.
Oh, is there not? No?
No. It's far more of a we're locked kind of affair.
I did not have or not even be in tracksuits or some kind of official gear.
Being a t-shirt maybe.
I'm sure.
Those lads look like they're getting married.
Yeah.
It's like those group weddings you see in China sometimes. There's 20 of them.
I don't know, the Dubs not turn up in a suit for some of their games,
no, not for the homecoming.
Oh, okay.
It's far more casual, so it's very impressive there. Anyway, we got to move on. Seamus Coleman, Dan. So I'm seeing somewhat unfairly the point is being made that Seamus Coleman had not scored a goal for 652 days.
How many of them did he spend in a cast?
That point slightly overlooked. So 3-1 win over Brighton at the weekend. Coleman scored the second to really put Everton in the driving seat and made a point of sprinting down to the Gladys Street end and hands behind the ears, which is not something that Coleman will be renowned for doing. He's not generally a level-headed fella. So he chatted afterwards to various reporters just about the situation. He's gone, as you'll hear, it was a slight dig at the fans, but it definitely wasn't a dig at the fans. But then it sort of was. But obviously there's no problem with the fans, kind of an explanation.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Coleman in a second. So here he was speaking in the mix on.
Do you remember the last goal? I think it was at Crystal Palace,
Crystal Palace, yeah. Crystal Palace away, yeah. So it was quite a while ago. I was in a good bit of form at the time, and
I think that was your fourth goal of that season.
Yeah,
in the Premier League.
Yeah, probably was, yeah. And unfortunately, got injured the next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Got injured the next month, and just delighted to get back in the score sheet. It's something that is part of my game. I like to score goals, and thankfully for me, that went in today.
When we saw you celebrate, was that the emotion coming out of the year out and finally getting back on the score sheet?
Yeah, a bit of everything. As I said, I've been a bit disappointed with my own performances this season as well, and been out for the year, and to get my first goal in a while. So I think if you've watched any of my goals, I always show quite a bit of emotion, but that was no different.
Congratulations on the goal, but congratulations on the performance as well, because you really had an impact on the game, and it was really obvious. I saw some pictures of you in the tunnel before the match. You seemed pretty determined today. Would I be right to see that?
Yeah, as I said, I'm the first to admit, I wasn't happy with my last performance, and it was something that I wanted to prove a point, and I was focused from the beginning, and kind of played in the front foot, and thankfully had an impact in the game.
When you're coming back from the injury, I guess you set yourself goals. You think, get back on the pitch. Was scoring a goal one of those targets?
Yeah, it was. Since I've come back from unfortunately the broken leg, it's been a little bit stop-start, a few niggles here and there, which unfortunately wasn't great. This season I had a stress fracture in my foot, which was frustrating to get back from. But scoring a goal was always a target, and thankfully I've got that off my back now.
And are there any targets left on the list to tick off, or is that actually it? Is rehabilitation complete now? Rehabilitation's complete.
Just get fitter every game now, and look forward to a good season, and hopefully get some more goals for the team, and let's have a good season.
And get a goal in the green shirt next, maybe.
Yeah, that would be great. Look at that would be great. Just to touch on another point, the lads that we've signed have been unbelievable people, great lads, and that's been a huge plus for us. But yeah, to score in the green shirt would be special. Yeah.
We've got a few players coming around, and they're teasing you while we're doing this interview. Lucas Dean was just bowing at your feet. Are the players been teasing you in the dressing room? Have they seen your celebration, maybe?
Lucas was teasing me a little bit. Yeah.
You had steam coming out of your ears, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I don't want to see any pictures of that, but as I said, the banter's great between the lads. It's a really, really good group of players, and we've great fun at breakfast tables every morning, and I have to say there's a great bond, and the manager Marcel done great with the lads he brought in.
You made a point of patting the badge after you
Yeah.
celebrated, or maybe you don't remember you did that.
No, I do. Yeah, look, this club, you know...
It's nothing against the supporters, maybe, is that?
I'll tell you one thing for sure, it's not, because the reception I got here in January when I came back from a broken leg is something that will stay with me for a long, long time. So let's not forget that was amazing, and that shows what the fans mean to me and what I mean to the fans. But you know, in your career you get some stick, and you know, get a little bit of stick, and you know, my emotion comes out, and that's just the way it is. But something against the fans, absolutely no chance.
Sort of is, though.
Well, someone was criticising him.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's a very big deal either. I don't think overhype this, but he was getting quite a lot of stick after the Man United game. Martial obviously was very involved there, and you know, you look at various tweets, and you have Francis Barber saying, you know, we don't owe him anything. If he's not playing well, he gets dropped. And the Everton Echo was talking about how his form is a big cause for concern, and why Everton could be looking for a new right back very soon on October 30th. This was one of their big stories on the Echo newspaper.
Yeah.
So he's aware that
he's aware of these things. And when you think about it, I mean, Seamus Coleman is really close, like very good friends with James McClean, right? But you know, McClean is obviously known as, again, being fiery, and he'll hit out at stuff. And okay, Coleman is the other end. He's the sort of the more you know, the leadership figure, the calm sort of a voice of authority. But you know, footballers, you know, they share certain things in common,
they're humans,
obviously, and they're aware when they're being underestimated or written off or whatever it may be. And you know, the social media world has made it way more accessible for footballers to be aware of what's been said.
Yeah.
And yeah, there have been murmurs from Everton fans about Coleman, but sometimes players that have been around for a long time are subject to that as well, because you know, the standards expected of them are much higher too.
Poppygate then, before we go, because I spoke to David Conn earlier. We'll bring you that interview shortly, and he certainly was very much talking in defence of James McClean. So Nemanja Matic has contributed to the whole debate, and there's an extra layer added now. So he's decided to stop wearing the pop. He said it reminds him when his village was bombed by NATO-led forces when he was 12. I recognise fully why people wear poppies, said Matic. Totally respect everyone's right to do so. I've total sympathy for anyone who's lost loved ones due to conflict. However, for me, it is only a reminder of an attack I felt personally as a young, frightened 12-year-old boy, as my country was devastated by the bombing of Serbia in '99. That was about 70 odd days of bombing, and it was roundly criticised because of the numbers of civilian casualties.
Yeah, it was NATO-led, but there would have been, like Tony Blair would have been sort of strongly criticised at the time. So, I mean, there was sort of a British element to the whole thing.
So, I mean, we talked about this a lot earlier on, so we don't have to rehash everything, but you were making the point it will be very interesting to see now if the Matic thing blows up in a way anyway comparable to the McClean thing. The latest situation in the McClean saga is he was abused roundly after the 0-0 game against Middlesbrough for Stoke, and
From fans of both clubs.
Both clubs, his home fans. I mean, he said to the section of uneducated cavemen, he thanked fans who did understand him, but he said to the section of uneducated cavemen in the left-hand corner of the booth and end stand, I want to sing anti-Irish songs each game and call me a Fenian. I am a proud Fenian, and no C will ever change that, so sing away.
Yeah.
So McClean, in contrast to that very calm, reasoned letter he wrote to Dave Whelan, where you felt, you know, he took advice from people and they really crafted a great response, where he talked about how if it was just about World War I and World War II, he would absolutely wear the poppy, and it was very complicated for him, and brought up Bloody Sunday in '72 and said how he just can't wear it under those circumstances because it's about more than just the conflicts pre-1945. It's a very reasoned thing.
It's his identity.
Yeah. 4 years on, he's just saying, if any C wants to mess with me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that message around the time of the week, and obviously there was more control in terms of how that was presented, whereas this is an instinctive response late on a Saturday night or whatever, you know. There was another one today. And yeah, he has impulsive moments, but it's clear how he feels. I think it is an interesting point that Matic has taken an independent stand too, that is also very hard to argue with. And will other players who are just go along with things to make their life easier, does the movement change slightly now towards other players saying, actually, do you know what?
My country and England don't have the best relations.
Yeah, and it's even not even. Yeah, it seems like a very dramatic way of phrasing it, but it's almost an element of no. I just, you know, I'm uncomfortable about the pageantry around the poppy, and just, you know, the great thing about this country, you know, the great thing about England, where they live and earn their money, is that there's freedom of opinion and expression, and that's something that people have fought for. But now, if someone exercises it, don't come after them. Say, be like us.
Yeah, that's far too reasoned for this discussion, Dan. We'll talk to David Conn in just a second.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Proud supporters of Responsible Gambling Week. Visit responsiblegamblingweek.org for details on who to contact if you or a friend need help or advice.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, Obama advisor Brett Bruen on the US midterms. Jess Kelly joins us from the Webb Summit in Lisbon. And do you panic if you're not close to a loo? We'll discuss pelvic floor problems.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
Nissan's latest innovation is the van that never gets old. Buy any 191 Nissan van and replace it with a new van every 3 years from just €49 per week ex-VAT. Plus, get 3 years free motor tax and 3 free services. Visit nissan.ie. Nissan. Innovation that excites. Finance offers for business users only. Finance is provided by AIB Leasing Limited by way of a leasing agreement. Allied Irish Banks plc and AIB Leasing Limited, trading as AIB Finance and Leasing, are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Eligibility, lending criteria, terms and conditions apply.
You thought it was a one-day deal, a week at most. But you were wrong. The Black Friday event is now on at appliancesdelivered.ie, and the savings are epic. TVs from just $99.95, up to 40% off washing machines, up to 20% off dishwashers, and up to 25% off refrigeration. The only thing more intense than these savings is my voiceover. The Black Friday event now on at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Some bus routes in Dublin are now operated by Go Ahead Ireland on behalf of Transport for Ireland. So if you take the 184, 185, 111, 45A, 59, 63 or 75, keep an eye out for the new look buses. On board it'll be business as usual, with the same fares and TFI Leap Card, free travel pass, Dublin Bus Rambler, monthly and annual tax saver tickets, all valid on these services. For real-time service information, download our TFI Real-Time Ireland and Journey Planner apps. For more information, visit transportforireland.ie.
Big news! Netflix is on Sky Q. So, it's never been easier to go from a Netflix show to a Sky show. 1 minute you're having a royal time watching The Crown.
How nice.
And the next you're exploring Westworld.
Where are we?
You can get lost in Stranger Things. And then find yourself right in the thick of Game of Thrones. Whoa! The best TV all in one place. Netflix on Sky Q. Coming November.
Visit sky.com/Netflix for terms and conditions.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Now, you're very welcome back. So we want to turn to a very hefty and detailed Der Spiegel report relating to ongoing and burgeoning plans for a European Super League. So a huge number of documents and emails have been sifted through by the German newspaper. Consulting firms, legal firms, agents, football clubs, all included. So at its core, one proposal I'm sure you've seen over the last number of days included 17 teams which have the strongest TV presences around Europe in a 34-week league, matches on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, knockout rounds at the end of the seasons. 11 clubs are listed in one proposal as founders, meaning they would never face relegation. These are the usual suspects: Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Juventus, Chelsea, Arsenal, PSG, Man City, Liverpool, AC Milan and Bayern Munich. There are also 5 initial guests, as they're called. These would be Atletico, Borussia Dortmund, Marseille, Inter Milan and Roma. Interestingly as well, there's an email from a Michael Gellinger, who's in the Bayern Munich legal department, and he asked a legal firm he was consulting with about withdrawing from the German league, the Bundesliga, but also whether or not the team would have to allow its players to play for the national team in the future. So that could be an interesting subplot as well. David Conn from The Guardian is on the line. Evening, David.
Evening.
So I've outlined as briefly as I can there the general situation for people who haven't seen it. You have a link to the Der Spiegel piece in your piece on the Guardian website, which people can check out. And a point you make, really, and it's very clear when you read the Der Spiegel report, it is big, it is complicated, it is long, it is in depth. Lots of journalists have worked on it. And so the conclusion to make here is a huge amount of work has gone into this on behalf of the football clubs. This is not a few suits having a casual conversation in a VIP lounge somewhere.
No, I think that was the main point, because I think we all knew that in 2016, UEFA did basically give the big clubs more money from the Champions League, and they did change the qualification slightly, didn't they, to guarantee the top 4 clubs from the top 4 leagues qualification. And we did know that came about as a result of pressure from the big clubs. And there'll be pressure again in 2021 because the financial distribution is only decided between this season, 2018 and 2021. But what these internal emails that Spiegel have got from what they say are leaks show us is that, yes, it was much more developed, certainly from Bayern Munich. I mean, the main leaks are from Bayern Munich internal emails, as you say, and the proposals were much more advanced than anyone really knew. But what happened was UEFA did reach an agreement with the clubs, and as has happened for the last 20 years, has bought off the clubs staying in the Champions League by basically giving them more money from it, to put it bluntly.
And the way they got around that was effectively a back payment. They said, well, we'll reward the success of the last 10 years. So that suited Bayern Munich very nicely, and Madrid and Barcelona in particular. Yeah,
I think it benefits the English clubs as well. I mean, not all of them, but that seems like transparently a way for the bigger clubs to say we should be rewarded, right? So the way they've done it, or we should get more money. So the way they've done it is to say, well, we'll reward, and it's quite a big chunk, isn't it? Like 30% of the money is to clubs who have advanced to later stages over the last 10 years. So as you say, that's Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. And what it replaces is a payment that was largely a larger payment that was based on how lucrative the television market is in a particular country. So because the English TV companies pay a lot of money for the Champions League, then the English clubs are rewarded accordingly. And now some of that is taken out, and it's to do with basically how big the club is. So yeah, it was a way of getting more money to the big clubs who were threatening to break away from UEFA.
I mean, it's such a drastic... I know this has been talked about for maybe the guts of 30 years, and in the 90s these rumours really started of a European Super League. But that said, the reality of doing this is such a drastic tearing up of the framework of European football. It is a huge thing. So people may be curious about the money and what's at stake here. One consultant put forward a plan to Real Madrid and concluded that the breakaway league could earn each team the guts of 500 million in revenue per year. To put that in context, Madrid, the Der Spiegel reporter writes, got 80 million for winning the Champions League in 2016. So that is a hefty pay rise. That is going to move people.
Yeah, I mean, the Real Madrid proposal seems to be current. So just for people to understand, the Bayern Munich proposals, which Spiegel got the leaked internal emails of, was an effort that was quite advanced, certainly in Bayern Munich's own mind, or in terms of what they'd explored by 2016. But then they've done a deal with UEFA, which, to be honest as well, I don't think UEFA has given them that much more. I don't think they've completely sold out to the big clubs, and they've kept the number of teams at 32. So they've kept the clubs in, if you like, the football family, and agreed a way of funding it from 2018 to 2021, and all the clubs are participating. The Real Madrid proposal appears to show that, Real Madrid aren't happy to leave that arrangement as it is, and they want to have another look, right, from 2021. Now, you've also had the Juventus chairman, Andrea Agnelli, and he told me myself in an interview that he wants things shaken up in 2024, and he wants more Champions League matches because that's going to make a lot more money for Juventus than Serie A matches. You've also got the FIFA Club World Cup proposal, and part of this is, as you say, what's been going on for the last 30 years, certainly very much genuinely the last 20 years, regular threats of a breakaway to get more money for the big clubs. But the reason why perhaps it's being sort of supercharged at the moment is because they think they're on the threshold of another technological revolution when it comes to broadcasting, don't they? First of all, everything's gone a lot more global anyway, even on television. But also they've now genuinely got streaming, Amazon, Netflix. I know they're not showing live sport yet, Netflix, but they're looking at another technological revolution in terms of being able to show matches on the internet. And so that's where you're getting these incredibly optimistic projections of how much money there is. And as ever, the big clubs think, well, we're the ones generating all this interest. We're the reason why people are tuning in Asia, in America, in all over the world. So we should get the lion's share of this money. And it's the not age-old, but certainly the modern age tension between the big clubs seeing themselves as businesses in their own right and, the collective of football, the collective of sport, which the vast majority of fans believe in, which is, clubs should compete on a more or less even playing field. They should belong to the local FA. They should belong to UEFA. They should ultimately belong to FIFA. And it's a sport and not a business primarily.
I guess one final thought on all that. I mean, if it does go down a more middle road, say, as opposed to just an outright Super League and they leave their domestic leagues behind, say it is as the Juventus president you mentioned talked about, where there's just more Champions League games and maybe fewer Serie A games, that gets very tricky as well, because I mean you still have a league effectively. You can't just say, well, we're going to play 10 games less per year, and all the other teams, do they agree to play 10 games less a year? They probably wouldn't agree to that. Manchester United, for instance, will still have their 38 games to play, more Champions League games. How do you work it where they play fewer? That's a very muddled area. That seems just as complicated.
Exactly. And, this is a point I put to Andrea Agnelli, the Juventus president, when he came into The Guardian and was talking about this. I said, well, what are you doing with Serie A? And he's saying, actually, yeah, he thinks that it would diminish, he's openly saying it would diminish Serie A. What he was thinking was, all you would do is say the Champions League is still 32 clubs, but instead of having 8 groups of 4, you would have 4 groups of 8. So literally you play 7 matches home and away, 14 matches in the group stage, instead of 3 clubs home and away, 6 matches in the group in the group stage. And so he's just looking at, that's how I'm going to get whatever that works out at, 8 more lucrative European games and not be stuck with Serie A. But then he said, well, yeah, maybe we'll play an under-21 team, or maybe we'll play a lesser team. Right. And as you say, there would have to be fewer matches. But I think he's thinking that he's going to try and negotiate this by 2024. But I'm completely with you. That in itself is, I said in my piece at the weekend, that is a breakaway of sorts. Yes. That is a serious attack on the National League. And so these are very fraught challenges. And the problem is that the National Leagues and the FAs and UEFA just find it difficult to say to the big clubs, yes, we really need you, because it is you, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Juventus, who generate all the money for us. And we just find it difficult to tell you, but we need to limit your money and you've got to share it, when you're telling us that you don't want to share as much of it. So they do desperately need these clubs to participate in the Champions League, and therefore the clubs just do have leverage, don't they? They do have leverage over the national associations. Now, as I said in my piece, the Premier League itself has set an incredibly bad precedent, because, as I never tire of reminding people, even though it's 26 years ago now, and I've long been I just start to seem like some grumpy bald guy going on about the good old days. But the Premier League was a genuine breakaway by the first division clubs of the Football League, and this is when the money was very, very much less than it is now. And the FA, the Football Association in this country, instead of having the backbone and the vision to say to those clubs, no, you've got to stay within the Football League and keep redistributing the money around, they let the Premier League break away. The Premier League's clubs have wolfed down all the huge satellite TV money, that was flowing in anyway in 1992. So they've become dramatically richer than every other club in England and every other club in Europe. And it's that Premier League breakaway that is fueling all the other breakaway talk. So it shows that you just do have to keep the game together.
Yeah, no doubt. Before you go, you're always an astute observer of various things going on in the game. We're talking here about...
Thanks for saying that.
Compulsory poppy time of the year, and we were talking about James McClean and Nemanja Matic. What are you making of what's going on with McClean and Matic and how all of this is playing out?
To be honest, I just find it very depressing. And I don't mean I find it depressing that James McClean and Nemanja Matic have chosen not to wear a poppy. That is completely their own right to do that. And you know, wearing a poppy, we were always taught, is a fragile reminder of peace because it's the flowers that grew on the muddy, awful battlefields of the First World War. And, you know, gradually in this country, it started to become some kind of compulsory, moment where you're almost a traitor to some people if you don't wear one. And I'm afraid that the FA themselves have encouraged this by, going to such a conflict with FIFA about it and insisting that there had to be poppies, they had to have the right to wear poppies on the shirts. And FIFA's point was that this is, it's a political symbol. And they had a huge argument that it isn't a political symbol. But it starts to look very political, doesn't it, when someone like James McClean says he doesn't want to wear a poppy and gets maybe not a load of abuse. I don't know how much it is, but he certainly gets some abuse. And, abusing someone for not wearing a poppy, that in itself is just not in the spirit of what it's supposed to be about. And, I don't know whether you and your listeners and viewers understand where we've got to in this country over the poppy, but it is starting to become something that is almost compulsory at this time of year.
Yeah, no, we've certainly had that sense watching your media and listening to people having to explain themselves when they haven't worn it and watching the abuse which follows. And I suppose the root cause of where we are at the moment is whether it's a political symbol or not. It's certainly a symbol, and we have different interpretations of this symbol. That ultimately is the issue. Like McClean, we were touching on the fact that at the moment he's pretty angry the way he's talking about it, but when he wrote that letter to Dave Whelan a couple of years ago, he explained things very simply and concretely, and he said it's not just for him about the lost souls of World War I and II. If it was, he said, I would wear one. I want to make that 100% clear. You must understand this. But the poppy is used to remember victims of other conflicts since 1945. This is where the problem starts for me, and talks about 1972 and Bloody Sunday. So you have this almost, it seems now, immovably entrenched situation whereby James McClean, when he sees the poppy, thinks of Belfast 1972, as is he right. And he's not wrong to think that. And yet there are people all over the UK who are thinking of their grandfathers and great-grandfathers who were good, innocent, normal men and went out and died heroically, and McClean's not acknowledging them. And in a sense, neither are wrong. I think the latter view is too simplistic, and so therefore it's wrong, but neither are wrong. And you see how emotive it becomes when it's your grandfather or great-grandfather being disrespected, and McClean's plea of, well, it's more complicated than that, is being completely lost. I don't really know how, the country at large is educated about the broader situation. Maybe if more Nemanja Matiches come out, then they'll start to realise. Well, yeah, I think even that, which, to be honest, that was a really, really good explanation of two sides to it. But I don't think there are only two sides to it. So I think where it's gone is, I don't actually think that everyone who wears a poppy is necessarily thinking of their father and grandfather in the First World War. It's kind of become, or certainly in the perception of some people, it's almost become an expression of general patriotism. And the thing is... So sorry to interrupt. Somewhere along the line, I got hoodwinked in with the Iraq War and became about military currently serving. That was the other layer to it. Yeah. It seems to have done, and also, if it has done to some people, right, then you could have a debate with people and say, well, it doesn't really mean that. It means have a debate about it. But in itself,
how can it possibly come to abuse? And like when we were growing up, there just wasn't this compulsory poppy wearing culture, and some people wore poppies. And I wouldn't like to say exactly who it was, but my memory is it would have been older people. And when I was at school, some of the kids at school did wear poppies, but it certainly wasn't the majority. And then people on television, I really don't remember everyone on television wearing a poppy. Now, it's pretty much everybody presenting a show on television will be wearing a poppy, because otherwise they'll be in a James McClean situation where they will have to start explaining themselves. And that's wrong. It should be a symbol of peace. And it should be something that, people can choose to wear for their personal reasons, if they want to. And, I think that certainly, I respect James McClean, Emmanuel Matic deciding not to wear one, but they shouldn't have to explain it. It shouldn't have such a compulsory sort of element to it. So you've got whole football clubs now, 100 years since the armistice, with poppies sewn into kits. The England team, that was a real sort of patriotic rallying against FIFA for the right to have the poppy sewn in. And I wrote a piece at the time, I don't know if you saw that one, saying FIFA have actually got a point about the poppy. What they're saying is, let's try and keep politics and war, even if it's remembrance of peace, or we're saying that the symbol is it's about the end of a war, but maybe it makes sense just not to have any symbols like that in football, because then we've just got nations playing football, playing sport against each other, and we're not bringing in all this other baggage. And we've gone way too far. And if you and your listeners and viewers have seen some of those scenes where James McClean was apparently being abused by supporters at the weekend, and now he's written a piece just talking about the abuse that he suffered and how he's reaching the end of his tether with it. That's not what the poppy's meant to be for.
David, brilliant as always. Thanks so much.
Yeah, a pleasure.
David Conn there from The Guardian. Now, in the next section of tonight's show, we'll be discussing odds and betting market prices. Off the Ball and Boil Sports remind all our listeners to gamble sensibly. And if you'd like further information, then please visit dunlewy.net. That's DUNLEWEY.net. Back in a second.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Be safe when driving this winter. Make sure your vision is crystal clear at all times by defogging and de-icing when necessary. Always keep a screen scraper and de-icer at hand to keep your mirrors and windows clear. Motor tips, brought to you by Volkswagen Service. Book a service online at volkswagen.ie.
We are on the brink of liberty.
From acclaimed director McClean.
Now is the time for action. Now!
A defining moment for our times.
Are you as angry as I am? I am hungry.
Peterloo is phenomenal. A masterful epic. 5 stars.
Never lose hope.
Peterloo, in cinemas now.
Brooks Hotel's central location, just 2 minutes from Grafton Street, offers 4-star luxury in Dublin city centre. A boutique hotel with charm and personality, whether for business or pleasure. Check out our winter rates on brookshotel.ie and discover the difference at Brooks.
Hungry for healthy meal inspiration? Well, Irish mussels are high in iron and protein, and naturally low in fat. Tasty too, especially in a spicy tomato and spinach sauce. Catch yours in store at the fish counter or in ready-to-cook packs. So go on, flex your muscles. Find recipes at boardbia.ie/fish.
Living a busy life and want to avoid colds and flu? When you start feeling run down, reach for A-Vogel Echinaforce, made from fresh echinacea herb. A-Vogel Echinaforce is a natural remedy that helps fight colds and flu by strengthening the body's immune system. A-Vogel Echinaforce, available at health stores and pharmacies nationwide. Always read the leaflet.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
With us now is Leon Blanche from our sponsors, Boyle Sports. Evening, Leon.
How are you?
Yeah, very well. So, as usual, we're looking ahead to Champions League games at this part of the week. So, on Wednesday, we have Manchester United going back to Juventus. Obviously, Juventus were very impressive at Old Trafford. I don't suspect there's much support for Manchester United in Turin.
No, very little support. And as you rightly said, it was men against boys at Old Trafford. Juventus totally dominated Man United. United have since put in 2 Premier League wins against Everton and against Bournemouth, but I think the gulf in class was there for everybody to see. United are 5-1 to win in Turin. Can't remember Manchester United being that big a price away from home, even if it is a Champions League and even if it is against a Juventus team that many feel could go a long way in the competition. But 5-1 tells its own story. United will struggle. I'm sure Mourinho would love to get a draw, even take something back from Turin. They're going to struggle, Manchester United, everyone says, to get out of the group, and I probably believe them. It's a tough group. It'll probably come down to the last game where they have to go and travel to play Valencia. But Juve are 7-4 on favourites, and rightly so. They are a really solid team. They've got a bit of class with the likes of Ronaldo and Bala, who was exceptional at Old Trafford. And it's going to be a very difficult night for Manchester United.
Yeah, obviously one of the subplots at Old Trafford was Ronaldo. That'll be the case again in Turin. I'm sure he's amongst first goal scorer contenders.
Yeah, look, he was very unlucky not to score at Old Trafford. It was a magnificent save from David De Gea in the second half. He didn't do an awful lot against United at Old Trafford, but I'm sure he will want to put one over his old side, even though he has a huge affection for United because they were the ones who gave him the chance that put him on the world stage. He's 5-6 to score at any time. I think a lot of people are looking at Ronaldo. I'm sure if there's a penalty, Joe, he'll take it. He'll take most free kicks. He does pop up in goal-scoring positions all the time. He's a world-class player. He's done it everywhere he's been. He did it in the Premier League. He did it in La Liga. And he started very well in Serie A. So even Manchester United fans, I don't think they'd begrudge Ronaldo. They know exactly what he done for the club when he was there.
The general sense after the last round of fixtures was that Spurs are going to do very well to get out of their group. 1 point from 3 is pretty miserable, and history suggests you're not going to get out. So it's Inter Barca again, Spurs and PSV go again. Is there any sense that they are going to get out?
I don't know. I mean, they should have beat PSV away from home.
Yeah.
They totally dominated the game. But unfortunately, they just didn't hang on for the 3 points. They are short price favourites at 5-2 on to beat PSV. I think they will beat PSV home tomorrow night, but they're 4-1 to actually get out of this group. Now, you've got Barcelona, who have 9 points. You've got Inter Milan sitting on 6 points. So if Inter can get anything from their home game against Barca, it's going to put Spurs right up against it. If I were a Tottenham Hotspur fan, I'd rather get knocked out of the Champions League, and I'd also rather not get into the Europa League and concentrate on the Premier League, where they're doing quite well.
Yeah, there's a certain grimness about those Thursday nights. Listen, Leon, great stuff. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much. There you go. That's Leon Blanche from our football show sponsor, Boyle Sports. And for more information, you can check out offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. And remember to gamble sensibly. And if you need further information, you can check out dunlewy.net. That's DUNLEWEY.net. Just time before we go to tell you that our mystery voice tonight is Tyson Fury. So congratulations to Barry Wilson, who wins a €100 gift card for McSport.ie. And if you missed out tonight, we'll give you another chance to win tomorrow night, all with thanks to McSport.ie. Visit their showroom in the Sandyford Industrial Estate in Dublin or shop online at McSport.ie. Tomorrow morning, OTBAM is live from the Web Summit over in Lisbon. Ger and Owen and the team are over there. Tomorrow night, we'll be talking about the most listened to radio broadcast of all time, believe it or not. It is 80 years since the fight between Joe Lewis and Max Schmeling in 1938. So that's on the way tomorrow. Plus, Kenny Cunningham in studio as well for the Champions League. Tom Dunn is on the way next. Good luck.